Hello and welcome back to episode 2 of Philosophy for Breakfast. You're with the poet Prince. We're going to dive back into the I Am Discourses and basically just pick up from where we left off yesterday. So we finished the foreword and we're just going to have a little dive in to discourse number 1. And there's some really cool stuff in here about the words I am. What do they mean? What is their power? So we're going to look at that. We're going to continue with the Statesman, and we're going to pick up from where we left off, which was at a really interesting part called The Ruler's Expertise. So we're going to hear what are the expertise you need in order to rule from a Stoic philosophy point of view, and then we'll have a look at sonnet number 2. So if you were there for sonnet number 1 yesterday, you're going to start to see how the sonnets will all follow on from one another. So let's have a look at the I Am Discourses. The I Am Discourses by the Ascended Master Saint Germain. Discourse 1. October 3rd, 1932. Saint Germain. Invocation. Thou infinite, mighty presence, thou all-pervading principle of life, we give praise and thanks for thy wondrous activity through all outer presence. Out of thy mighty essence comes all that is, and oh, that humanity might understand! Thou art ever and forever self-sustained. Thou mighty, active principle of life, surge forth in the outer activity of mankind and manifest thy supreme justice now in all places. Mighty presence of light, God in action. I'm getting excitable because there's capital letters and italics and punctuation, exclamation marks. Govern the minds of mankind, holding them to truth and justice, and see that thy messengers are placed in all official positions. Let naught of the outer interfere, that none of humanity may accept any thought of deception. Mighty presence of God in action, surge forth in the minds of all, expressing thy conquering presence. Greetings. I bring you greetings from the perfected ones who are watching closely over and ministering to you all. The Discourse. Life, in all its activities, everywhere manifest, is God in action, and it is only through lack of the understanding of applied thought and feeling that mankind is constantly interrupting the pure flow of that perfect essence of life which would, without interference, naturally express its perfection everywhere. The natural tendency of life is love, peace, beauty, harmony, and opulence. For life cares not who uses it, but is constantly surging to pour more of its perfection into manifestation, always with that lifting presence with which is ever inherent within itself. I am. I am is the activity of that life. How strange it is that students with sincere interest do not seem to get the true meaning of those two words. When you say and feel, I am, you release the spring of eternal, everlasting life to flow on its way unmolested. In other words, you open wide the door to its natural flow. When you say, I am not, you shut the door in the face of this mighty energy. Okay, so that was a lot, actually. The first part, invocation, it's kind of like a spell. And really that's how I'm looking at these texts. Not just this, but also the Shakespeare and the Statesman. It's in a way a kind of magic. A use of language that segments reality in such a way where truths and patterns become revealed to us that otherwise might not have, which is basically kind of like what magic is. You know, if you say something like that, wow, that was magic, you're saying something was inexplicable. Something occurred which kind of made sense, but also doesn't seem possible. But then with the right language, you can break it down by noticing certain things that weren't obvious to you before. And then the sequence of events, the cause and effect that you're looking at, becomes self-evident through the use of language. So that invocation is sort of like a spell you would cast. When you say, I am whatever, you're in a way casting a spell. And that magic spell has, what this book is telling us, huge effects. You're basically saying, if you say, I am tired, you're basically saying to the universe, make me tired. If you say, I am full of energy, you're saying to the universe, fill me with energy. And what Saint Germain is telling us, it seems, is that the universe will oblige. Whether you said something that will be good for you or whether you said something that will be bad for you, it's going to do whatever you've said. So just be very careful when you use this kind of magic. I am. How did we read this bit? I am is the activity of that life. How strange it is that students, we did read this bit, with sincere interest do not seem to get the true meaning of those two words. What did we get up to? When you say I am not, you shut the door in the face of this mighty energy. I think that's where we got to. I am is the full activity of God. I am. It's an activity. I am amming right now. I amming. Would that work? Having placed before you so often the truth of God in action, I wish you to understand its first expression in individualization. The first expression of every individual everywhere in the universe, either in spoken word, silent thought, or feeling, is I am. Recognizing its own conquering divinity. The student, endeavoring to understand and apply these mighty yet simple laws, must stand guard more strictly over his thought and an expression, in word or otherwise. For every time you say, I am not, I cannot, I have not, you are, whether knowingly or unknowingly, throttling that great I am presence, great presence within you. This is just as tangible as if you placed your hands about the throat of an outer form, only with the outer form, your thought governing the hand, you can release it at any time. But when you make a declaration using the words I am not, you set in motion mighty, limitless energy that continues to act unless it is recalled, and the imperfection consumed and transmuted. This shows you the enormous power you have to qualify this mighty energy of God. And I tell you, beloved students, dynamite is less dangerous, for that would but liberate you from the body. While these thoughts sent forth ignorantly and ungoverned bind you upon the wheel of re-embodiment indefinitely. So, for the love of Jesus, do not use I am without being aware of what you're doing. Think about all the times you've said, I'm so whatever. I'm so this, I'm so that, I'm so broke, whatever. I mean, that's a really big one, isn't it? And I know it sounds kind of cheesy to say, but hopefully this book is starting to give you a little bit more detail on these concepts, because everyone says that. Don't say you're broke or you're sick or whatever, because that will just make it true. But in this book, he's really going to break down in crazy detail how this magic works, to the point where hopefully you'll start to notice just that intention. Because if you notice, he said you might think I am or feel I am or something like that, where you're not saying I am. When a baby becomes aware of itself, it doesn't say I am. It just doesn't do that. It's an awareness that comes in. And then when you say the words I am, and you add intention to it, and you add feeling to it, then it's like stacking on the spell. The spell was just the awareness. Just having the awareness of I am in this state. I am alive. That in itself is creating the effect of being alive, continuing. But if you can measure just the very beginning of an awareness of something, of a state, for example, of being tired, and then the influx of energy going into that, and creating the narrative in the head, and then noticing the feeling, and then focusing on the feeling, the fatigue in your knees, the heaviness of your eyelids, maybe because you're sleepy, or your eyes hurt from staring at a screen from working all day, and then domino after domino, and then you turn to the person next to you and you say, "Oh, I'm so tired." And by that point, you've added so much to that spell that, as it says, you're binding yourself to it. The only way to negate it is to call back that energy, which you can do. He'll go on to say, as we read further, you can say, "I am not tired." Even if you just say, "Oh, I'm so tired." No, I'm not tired. I am not tired. I am energy. I am full of energy. But not just saying the words without anything behind them, without feeling, without intention, without becoming aware of the energy you do have. Because you'll always have a little bit. So you don't need to lie when you say it, and it's not just a psychological trick. It's just reorienting your attention until you're focusing more on the thing you want to multiply. All right. The Statesman. Let's hear the ruler's expertise, and we're a little short on time, so let's see how far we get with this. No reader of the Republic can fail to see the crucial importance of Plato's assumption that ruling is a kind of expertise, a skill, or techne. This is in one way merely a natural extension of the idea, prominent in the early Socratic dialogues, that virtue is a kind of expertise over one's life as a whole. In some of these dialogues, notably Euthydemus, Lovers, and Alcibiades, this idea is extended without argument to the idea that the virtuous agent will rule over others, making them, as well as himself, virtuous. However, it is the Republic which pushes the idea of ruling as an expertise furthest in two ways. One is that although ruling is constantly compared to practical kinds of expertise like those of the doctor and navigator, Plato makes extreme demands on the theoretical competence that the rulers must have. The ruling class must spend long years doing mathematical studies which accustom the mind to non-empirical thinking, and then study philosophy. And its supreme object, the good, in an abstract and theoretical way. Plato never doubts that the abstract studies will improve the ruler's practical abilities, but just how this is supposed to happen is never made clear. The difficulty is made worse by the claim that people who have experienced these theoretical studies will see no value in returning to practical administration and will have to be forced to do so. I'm going to stop there because that's all we have time for, but I don't know about you, but my mind is blowing. I'm having brain boppers bopping off because I actually remember when I first started getting into some more philosophical, spiritual shenanigans, people saying, like one guy, YouTube channel actualized.org, really recommend watching some of his videos, or lots of his videos. And he actually said this, that eventually you might just, if you get into the lofty spiritual philosophical stuff too soon, you don't really want to go back to all the practical stuff. And to be honest, I think I find myself a little bit in that boat. Here we go, Shakespeare, Sonnet number 2. We're rattling through here today. I'm checking the time. Sonnet number 2. When 40 winters shall besiege thy brow, and dig deep trenches in thy beauty's field, thy youth's proud livery so gazed on now will be a tattered weed of small worth held. Then being asked where all thy beauty lies, where all the treasure of thy lusty days, to say, within thine own deep sunken eyes were an all-eating shame and thriftless praise. How much more praise deserved thy beauty's use, if thou couldst answer, this fair child of mine shall sum my count and make my old excuse, proving his beauty by succession thine. This were to be new made when thou art old, and see thy blood warm when thou feelest it cold. There you go. So carrying on from yesterday, it does seem to continue that theme that when people say, well, you're a bit of an ugly old fart, so, you know, where's your beauty? You haven't brought much beauty into this world. If you have a child, you can turn to them and say, there you go, there's my beauty. And you can see, because look at how good looking my child is. And they'll go, yeah, he's got a really, bright, handsome face, like this fellow, maybe not. And in such a way, just carrying on from the sonnet yesterday, what was gone will be continued. What ended in that previous life cycle will come round again in the next life cycle. So, what does he say? Then being asked where all thy beauty lies, where's all your beauty? Where all the treasure of thy lusty days, back in the days of your youth when you had all that energy and, you're a bit more eye-catching, a bit more pleasing to look upon. You can just say, even though you've got your own deep sunken eyes, to say within thine own deep sunken eyes were an all-eating shame and thriftless praise. How much more praise deserved thy beauty's use if thou couldst answer? Yeah. So if you don't have that child there, you're just going to be like, oh, I don't know, guess it's gone. Yeah. Oh, I was good looking once. And they'll be like, haha, sure you were. And you'd be like, okay. Mm-hmm. But if you did have a child, and you passed on that genetic information, and you created another life, then no one would be able to put you on the spot like that. They'd be like, oh yeah, well, obviously, you can tell he's got your eyes, he's got your face. Yeah, I can kind of see it. I can kind of see how you would have looked back in the day. There you go. So that's episode 2 of Philosophy for Breakfast. I'm the Poet Prince. Thanks for joining me. See you next time.